Okay, so just to kind of recap this part of the blog, the stock Sur Ron Light Bee skid plate is made out of aluminum. I don't know what kind of aluminum. It's a little thicker than 2 millimeters. The Lunicycle skid plate is a little thinner than 2 millimeters, and it's made out of 304 stainless steel. And it weighs like twice as much as the stock skid plate, so it's not magnetic apparently. Found that out. And a heavy-duty skid plate, I don't know how much it weighs, but they're usually made out of aluminum, and they're 4 millimeters thick. So I can vouch for how strong 4 millimeter thick aluminum skid plates are. They can take quite a beating, man. I've never punched a hole in one or anything or cracked it. They are pretty stout. 4 millimeter is, it's the tough stuff, man. Now the good thing about the Luna skid plate is it's made out of stainless steel, but it's about as thick as the stock skid plate, so it just makes you wonder, will the strength of the material, will that hold up? So we'll have to find that out when we take this bike out for another test ride on the dirt. So see if it holds up to Hades Omega's rigorous testing. so yeah. So what we're gonna have to do next is I want to go paint this. We're gonna go paint the bottom black. Yeah, we're gonna go paint the bottom black. And oh man, I got some oil on it. I'm gonna have to clean it. We're gonna paint the bottom black. I'm gonna paint it with low gloss black engine enamel, same as what we used for this guy, for the foot pegs, and then we're gonna install it, and then because it'll be really. I don't know. Let's see what's it gonna look like. It's gonna look like when it's installed. Yeah, it's gonna look something like that. Yeah, actually, it doesn't look too bad. It's fine. We'll still paint it black. Doesn't quite line up. So the back, I can tell now, the back is slotted, so you have some play. The front is not, so the front is always going to be like that. So maybe it's to account for variances in the bike, And the question is, like, how strong are these tabs on the frame? Like, could you bust this stuff off if you hit it hard enough? That's another good question. Like, how hard can you ride the Sur Ron, before, like, the frame. I know that's actually part of the frame too. Don't like that. So you could potentially, I don't know how strong this part is. I don't know how strong this part is. I would imagine this is probably take a bigger beating than this part here, though. And yeah, so if you break this, the frame, it's part of the frame, dude. You'd have to weld it back on, and your motor would fall off too, because the motor is connected to that. So it just depended on how strong they made that, man. I'm not a super engineering expert or anything, but I'll just tell you, like, yeah, dude, the skid plate is connected to this, and if you hit this hard enough, so hopefully this is a lot stronger than this, Yeah, I'm a little worried. Maybe we shouldn't be doing, like, riding over logs and stuff with it, enduro stuff. It's a good question. But we'll find out. So yeah, I'm gonna go paint this, and then we'll go install it. And then I'll let you know how the install goes. Basically, you just gotta put these guys back on. If I remember correctly, this was like this. Oh boy, they don't stay on either. Maybe you have to, like, squeeze them. Oh yeah, okay, you can squeeze them to make them tighter, and then they hold on. So I think this one was. Oh yeah, if I remember correctly, that one was like that, and this one was like this, like that. So I think it doesn't really matter, but yeah, I think they were facing inwards. One of them was like you have to push it this way, and the other one you have to push it that way. So. All right, so yeah, now we're gonna go paint. I'm just gonna paint the outside. Maybe I'll paint the outside and the welds. I don't know if the welds will rust or anything. Hopefully they use stainless steel welding material to weld it. But yeah, so all right, Also, I wanted to make a note about the stock Sur Ron Light Bee skid plate. I think it's I thought it was going to be worse than this when I took it out, but it's actually not too bad. So like it pretty much pressed this whole center part in. The whole thing just went this way in the center right there, and then it looks like it twisted. Yeah, so like it kind of, what it did is it folded it inward like this, and it bent the tabs here, because those tabs don't look like they're supposed to be like that. So the front didn't actually take any damage at all. It's just the bottom part, and yeah, you can see where the part where it welded, it buckled in on the side. Paint's cracking all over the place, so you can tell where all the paint cracked is where obviously where the where it bent in, you know. Oh, right here in the front, a little bit on the side too. So yeah, I mean it's a good skid plate, but not for heavy duty off-road riding, is all I'm gonna say. If you don't ride your bike so too aggressively, or don't do like, you know, black diamond trails or anything, I think this is a good skid plate. It's fine. I'm not knocking Sur Ron Light Bee, Sur Ron's engineering at all. It's a fine skid plate if you're not riding in really rough terrain. But I rode it through some really rough terrain, so and that's the outcome with that. So actually, I don't even think I bent it that bad until I started doing the log jumping. So I think that's what really did it in, the log jumping. But I mean, I do the same stuff with that bike, and look at, does that skid plate look like it's bent at all? No. so yeah. But yeah, it's gonna beat the frame up quite a bit. So we'll just have to see how much punishment the Sur Ron and the Lunicycle skid plate can handle, you know. So maybe we shouldn't really be riding it through that kind of stuff. But it's so light. It's like it gives you confidence to ride in that kind of stuff, though. So that's the problem. Yeah. So that's just like my thoughts on the stock skid plate. It's a good skid plate, but you know, it's not for heavy duty off-road riding. So that's just my thoughts on it. So a lot of bikes, like I said, a lot of bikes, even like just stock bikes, they don't come with very beefy skid plates like this right here. This one came with a plastic one that was just underneath, you know, to keep the stuff from piercing the case of the engine, you know. Same thing with this one. See, this is a KLR 650. This is the stock skid plate on it. I don't ride this in very rough terrain, so I don't really need a heavy duty skid plate. So I just kept the stock one on. You don't even need it. You don't even need a skid plate, actually. I could just take this off if I wanted to, but I mean, it came with the bike, you know. Maybe maybe it does give it some kind of aerodynamics, but also I want to talk about like what kind of protection the skid plate, what it's protecting. So here it's protecting like the frame. See the frame here and here. It's keeping stuff from hitting the frame itself. You know, your frame is taking some because the skid plate is attached to the frame, so the frame is taking some of a beating when you hit stuff. But you know, the force is distributed out through the plate, you know, so it kind of helps it a little bit. And the good thing about a skid plate is that's why they call it a skid plate. It's made to slide over stuff, so your frame won't get all hung up, or the motor won't get hung up on stuff. It's designed to just skim over stuff. That's why the plastic ones, in a sense, are better, because they slide better. So here we're protecting like the case, the engine case, the lower part of the engine, and maybe like the side cases right here. But on the Sur Ron here, what we're protecting are the wires. So and we'll actually look at it when we get the Luna skid plate on there. Supposedly, I think the reason why this side of the skid plate is higher than the other side is because it's protecting these wires here. That's why they designed it like that, to protect the wires going to the motor. So it's protecting that, all the wires coming from the controller and stuff. So you can see this one got pinched. This wire got pinched pretty bad. I guess I don't really know what that goes to. I'm gonna have to trace that back. It looks like it goes from the controller though, so it got pinched, but it looks like it still runs okay. There's nothing wrong with the way the bike runs. So but yeah, so it's protecting the wires, it's protecting the motor, the heat sinks and stuff here. That's all the stuff that's gonna take a hit, you know. it would have been nice. I know it would have been nice if the motor was a little bit taller into the frame, but yeah, I mean, the battery's pretty well protected. Nothing's going to really hurt the battery unless you drop it on a rock or something and it, you know, hits the case or something. But that's not likely to happen. So like the bottom of the bike is probably the most exposed, where the most damage is going to happen. If you hit something down there at speed. And like the foot pegs. Actually, this is lower than the foot peg, so this is going to take more damage than this. So there is the extended skid plate that you can get from Sur Ron UK that goes from here, and then it extends to the foot pegs right here. Do I think you really need that though? Not really. Not really, because this is actually lower. The frame is actually lower than the foot peg mount, so the mount is not going to get hit as easily. But of course, you got the foot peg sticking out of it, so if your foot pegs hit anything, it's going to put a lot of pressure, force on these components here. Well, yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that would get damaged. So the stuff that most likely will get damaged is the bottom of the motor here, and maybe like this part right here. The front, maybe not, unless you have like a really frontal, you hit something really bad in the front, and then the wiring. So that's sort of things that could get damaged. And the controller, but the controller is a good ways up there, man. I don't think anything will really damage the controller. So yeah, man, armor up. Armor up. If you're going to be riding some rough stuff, armor up. All right, here's my go. That was just a little vlog I wanted to do about, like, you know, the skid plates and how they, you know, what they're protecting. You know, this is an electric bike. It's a little different. You're basically only protecting the motor, but you know, it's the same purpose. You know, and there, like I said, this doesn't have a cradle frame. If anything, there's a cradle here. Yeah, actually, there is a cradle. You got your cradle frame right here. There's a cradle here for the battery, and then underneath the cradle is where the motor is attached. So yeah, that's the way they designed this. If this was like in like a traditional motor dirt bike frame, kind of like this one here, a double cradle dealie, there would be a bar coming from here to the front. It would actually, yeah, they would actually make this like this and then go straight up. But in it, it's an aluminum frame too, so I don't know how durable it is. I don't have any bikes with an aluminum frame. Yeah, all my bikes are steel frames, so I don't know how well an aluminum frame will how well it can take damage, you know. But this bike's only like 100 pounds, so it's not much weight to damage. All right, well, it's all about physics and engineering, right? So that's just the way they designed this bike, man. Just look at it; it's just so exposed down there. It's just hanging off the bottom. It's kind of like the Impulse. If you look at the Impulse here, so the Impulse has a really interesting frame. You got this big, massive frame, like center section here, and your batteries are attached on top of it. So there's a battery pack here, there's a battery pack down here. So in a sense, it's very similar to that bike, but this isn't a dirt bike though. So this is a street bike. You got your controller and stuff down here. I think the controller's down here. Yeah, the controller's on the very bottom, and then I think the motor's right here. It's underneath the frame, roughly where that one is almost. Yeah, it's exactly the same place. If you think about it, the foot peg's right here. So yeah, that's under there, but you got so much more meat in front of it. There's a radiator here because this is water cooled. You got the battery in front of the motor, you know, but this isn't a dirt bike, so that's what I'm saying. The design actually is very similar, sort of, kind of, except the batteries, the way the batteries are attached on the bike are different. Damn. Yeah, it's like this one whole bank is like the battery on that one. It's like this bike has like twice the amount of battery. So this bike is heavy, dude. This bike is like 470 pounds versus that's only like 100 pounds. So it's an amazing weight difference. It's such a light bike, the Sur Ron. All right, so that's my little rant on like electric motorcycle design and, you know, skid plates and the frames and stuff. All I can say is, like, I am very, very impressed with the craftsmanship of the frame on this bike. If it's one thing that stands out the most on the Sur Ron, it's the frame. I've never seen a frame like this beautiful before, you know, on like a dirt bike or like a dirt bike, mountain bike hybrid type of thing, you know. So yeah, it's a work of art, I'll tell you that, man. It's not without its faults, though. Like I mean, I know it's nice that they kept everything tucked up in there, you know, but it's still exposed. Like it's below, the motor's below the frame, you know, and it's, you know, it's out there, it's hanging out there, waiting to be damaged. So hopefully the skid plate does its job. The stock skid plate did do its job. I will admit that it didn't. You know, the motor didn't take any damage, but like it got damaged very easily, the skid plate. So hopefully the Luna one could take a little more beating, but we'll just have to test that out. So there'll be a separate video on that. All right.